Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to all our colleagues from US and Canada. And I hope you're all enjoying a warm and nice sunny afternoon, as I am. And I'm calling in today from Dayton, Ohio. And I'm joined today with all our XCOM members. So Valeria, Martine, Melissa, Bob and Jenny, and Phil is on a business trip today, and Kathleen Schultz from Consumer Goods is going to be representing Phil through our session. So our agenda for today will be with start with Phil covering our global and our Martine covering our global and our regional business performance year to date until the first half. And then we'll be followed by Melissa and by Kathleen and myself covering our highlights and lowlights in the respective business areas, and then followed by Valeria, who will talk about all what we are doing progress in the talent development area. And we will have plenty of questions to take from you, and we will have time for that. So looking forward to the end on a rich Q&A session. Before we get into our town hall, there's an opportunity for everybody now to pull out your phones and get into the Slido mode. So there's a QR code you can scan and get into Slido, as we will start with the trivia. And the trivia is going to be on the question: how many employees do we have across US and Canada? And how many facilities do we have across US and Canada? So please take your guess, and then we will be collecting your answers. And while we do that, let's actually go through another slide on what our theme is, which I would like us to keep in mind as we cover the next hour. And here we use the theme Forward with Confidence, which also has been used at times by Carsten since March. And why is that very much relevant to everything we do today? Because Forward with Confidence carries a simple meaning: how we adapt to rough waters while keeping our course steady. And we believe in the strength that we have proven over the last many years, and why we feel very confident how we can approach also the future. And this is consistent with implementing our purposeful growth strategy. So that's the theme we will keep in mind as we go through all the town hall content. And then let's look at our Slido results. Where are we? Wow, okay, so we have a wonderful variety of responses, which is still evolving. And I would say in this case, the wisdom of the majority carries. And that is correct. The answer C, where we have 60% of the votes. We have almost 8,000 employees across 70 facilities in Henkel North America, and we represent almost 30% of the total Henkel group. So that's our business. Okay, with that, let's get into our financial performance, our business performance in first half, and I would invite Martine to the stage. Martine, over to you.
Yes, thanks, Rajat, and also, of course, a warm welcome from my side. If you move to the next slide, of course, you see our first half 2025 performance, right? So we always look to the first 6 months. And as a reminder, in the first 6 months, we are not only reporting revenue, but we're also reporting earnings. Overall for the group, and you see it in the middle, we were organic growth-wise, we were flat. Some might say, okay, this is not where we want to be. Obviously not, but I think the highlight here is that we managed to get an organic sales growth in the second quarter. And I think that that's actually very important. We all know that we had a weak start into the year, right? For North America, but particularly also for the world. But the second quarter actually turned positive for the world. I think that was very important. If you look to both businesses, right? So both businesses were also positive in terms of organic growth, which was important. And we also see ongoing volume gains in adhesives on a global level. And of course, that's of utmost importance. If you then look to the EBIT margin increase, so we increased 60 basis points, so very strong. And and not at the expense of our investments, right? So we kept investing behind our brands, which of course also very important if we think about fueling future growth. We also reported the EPS buyback, or the share buyback, but even more important, strong EPS growth, which of course is very important if you look to the share price. We finally also maintained our guidance. We even updated it a bit, so we went a bit down in terms of organic growth, but we kept the EPS and EBIT guidance, which also was then finally reflected, like I mentioned, in the share price. So if you think back, we were around 67 the day before the announcement. Today we are edging towards 73, so which is an increase of 9%, right? So this is big, and this is also outperforming our peers, and of course also outperforming the main indexes. So that was actually very strong. And of course, this all came on the back of a very weak performance in Q1, right? So you might remember that we had a big dip, but we are edging back to where we came from. And I think that's actually very important if you look from a shareholder perspective. And I know that a lot of us are actually also shareholders in the company. If you move to the next slide, I would like to also highlight a couple of topics in North America. We had a minus 3.4 for the first half, right? If you look then a bit below this, we had minus 5.6 in Q1 and minus 1.2 in Q2. So we also see sequential improvement in the second quarter. I think that was very important, and particularly also by our consumer businesses, right? So AC was positive, but also the overall HCB business was also positive, driven by both consumer and professional. And this is something that we didn't see for a long time. So I was actually very happy to see this. And this is also something that was well commented in the market, right? So if you look to the analyst calls, if you look to the questions we are getting, it's very often about North America HCB. And we were very happy, of course, that all of us, and particularly the team in HCB, managed to get positive. I think that was actually a great achievement. And also building on a very strong gross margin. So if you looked, of course, to the macroeconomic environment, we had a lot of uncertainty, right? A lot of things around tariffs. But we still managed to get a gross margin for North America above 40%. And that is something that we didn't see before, right? So if you look back in time, this is a place where we never were. And of course, this is also reflecting all the things we did in the past in terms of pricing, in terms of working on our portfolio, also working on our production footprint. So that is actually a very big achievement, and this also sets us up for future growth. This together, of course, with the divestment of the retailer brands business, Kathleen will talk a bit more about it, right? A lot of our colleagues were involved. We closed it, right? But there is still a whole transition phase, which is going on now. And I can only say that we are very well on track with everything that we plan to do. Same is true for Seal for Life, right? So when we acquire something, we also would like to integrate something into our existing systems. And that actually goes very well. And finally, I mean, to end on a very positive note, we saw the last 2 months of positive organic growth, right? So we saw June was positive. We also saw July positive. And we also expect, I mean, knock on wood, of course, it's still early in the quarter to have Q3 with a positive organic growth. And July, particularly, we also saw that we came back in North America with positive volume growth. So overall, a very strong start into the quarter. And I can just all of us, to keep going on that pace. So thanks a lot for this. Having said that, of course, I go back to Rajat. You might be on mute, Rajat.
Yes, I was. Thank you very much, Martijn, for this update. And with that, let us go into our business updates. So in our business updates, I can start with our adhesive technologies business. And what do we see in the market? The crystal ball is very fuzzy when we look at how to understand at the moment our external environment. So some of the things that characterize the market are uncertainty. Uncertainty comes from certain topics such as tariffs. How much tariffs do we expect, and what is the economic impact? There are also some uncertainty coming from consumer confidence, which is linked to inflation. So inflation is high in some areas, it's coming down in other sectors. The housing market is still slow. So there are plenty of these events which put the customers into a wait and see mode. And a wait and see mode means they defer certain capital expenses and they run very lean on their inventories, which of course has an effect on our sales. At the same time, when we look at a broader economic data, we also see the consumers being quite resilient despite all these uncertainties. So if we look at the reports, unemployment being quite steady at a low number, and consumers still holding up on their on the spending, we see what I would call a resilient market where the demand is holding steady despite all the uncertain market trends, which also tells us we work through this uncertainty. And in this uncertainty, we still look for opportunities. And then I move to the highlights on the next slide. So where are the opportunities? Where are the customer wins? Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. So I'll focus on a few examples in this very busy slide. So there is a nice win that the consumer goods adhesives picked up with Kimberly Clark, where we have our new hot melt specified at the Huggies brand, and that's a flagship brand for Kimberly. So once you're in there, it'll give us a nice top line boost of well over $2.5 million. In the AM business, we have a very nice win at Arista with our thermal solutions, which allow these kinds of electronic components to run cooler, which is very important in these big data centers. And through an amazing combination of good key account management and innovation engagement, we are now spec'd into these hyperscale data centers and the cloud customers to which Arista is a big supplier. So it's a nice win for our AMI industrials team. We are also specified now in a new launch at Toyota with the sound damping adhesive on with our TerraZone product line, and that gives improved passenger comfort. And this is with the RAV4 vehicle, which is one of the top sellers for Toyota in North America. So it's a nice win, and congratulations to the AMO team. Looking at our consumer adhesives business, the ACC business, we have a very good expansion this year across our retail locations, 6,300 of them in the US. And these are through these offerings cover light DIYers, do-it-yourselfers, all the way to seasoned professionals. And through this breadth of offerings, we are working with Walmart, we are working with Lowe's, and we can see this already in a positive volume growth from the start of the year, which is even outperforming the HAT business in our ACC business. So that's a very nice win. And lastly, when we look at our operations, in the operations last year, we had one site which was carbon neutral, which was Mentor in 2024. And since then, we have now achieved carbon neutrality and Calhoun in Richmond and in our Berkeley site. So congratulations to the operations teams for achieving this milestone, and there's more to come. And this contributes to our target of being carbon neutral in our operations by 2030. So nice win to Bjorn and the team there. So what matters looking into the rest of the year? If you look at the next slide, I could go on a lot. However, I'll stay with just one line here, which is top line. So what matters is growth. We have a healthy business, and in this tough environment, there is always one more customer to win. And that's what we focus on to drive a healthy top line growth for the remainder of the year. With that, I bring the adhesive technology section to an end and would like to hand it over to Kathleen to bring us through the consumer brands business. Kathleen, over to you.
Thank you so much, Rajat. So warm welcome from my side. I'm more than happy to represent HCP North America Consumer today for you. And also doing this in Phil's absence, it's going to be a pleasure. So let's jump right into the highlights that I would like to share with you. So first of all, I would like to report to you that we were able to complete our compaction wave 1. As a reminder, compaction was our initiative to compact detergents. So a more concentrated, let's say hands less juice with the same washing power per bottle. So it's good for the consumers, good for the environment, and also good for our margin profile, because obviously we were able to generate quite some savings with that initiative. The team did an outstanding job while affecting 30% of our revenues. We were really able to keep waste cost at an absolute minimum, and also service levels were at an absolutely high level all the time. So really great job. Martijn said it already, we divested retail brands end of Q1 this year. Right now we are in the so-called transitional service agreement phase that we will bring to an end, hopefully by the end of September. All KPIs, all measures are on track, so we are really confident to do so, and then to really complete the divestment within this year. Another super important highlight that I would like to share with you is our Henkel Open House initiative. So it was actually an initiative where we hosted more than 120 guests to experience our Stamford headquarters, and actually employees were able to invite family members, close friends, to really see where we work, what we are doing, and why Henkel is such a place, such a special place to work for. There were tons of games, activities, a lab and office tour. So big success, was a lot of fun, well appreciated. And we for sure will repeat that initiative next year. On the other side, when it comes to business performance, Martijn also said it already, we are more than proud to confirm that we have 3 consecutive months of growth, positive growth. That's really exciting. Now also indicating a bit the momentum that we are in right now, also reporting excellent customer service levels, forecast accuracy at an all-time high. So really pacing towards the turnaround when it comes to our growth. And this is also confirmed by a very strong brand growth. And we can report that 6 out of 10 top brands are actually stable and or growing. Particularly our Jewel, All Free and Clear is growing double-digit, as well as Got2b Styling. So really exciting and really indicating our turnaround when it comes to our top-line performance. On the other side, when there are highlights, there are also lowlights. Next slide, please. And there are 3 lowlights that I would actually really elaborate on. So tariffs, you heard it already. I'm assuming it's going to be a common theme across the entire presentation. So also HTB consumer is affected by tariffs, particularly in the dial business. We do see some effect, and also obviously in the Canadian business. We're closely monitoring the situation. We took actions and measures also with regards to pricing. But of course, we will only price where appropriate and where the market would allow for. So it's a bit of a wait-and-see situation. On the other hand, deregulation is also an important theme. You might think, okay, deregulation is not so, is actually a good thing. It is, but when every federal state, every state in the US is having their own regulations, you can imagine that dealing with 50 regulations is quite complex and requires quite some resources in terms of funds, but also in terms of people. So, sorry, that's really the topic here. Another thing, competitive pressure as high as always. Competition is not sleeping. Also, additionally investing in media and marketing in their brand equities, but also we face and observe a never seen aggressiveness at the POS when it comes to trade promotion, when it comes to investments, and it's really something that we continuously want to keep up the pressure. But of course, it's quite a challenge. Last but not least, we do face also an accelerated shift towards certain channels. That's particularly the club channel and also the e-com channel. So we really need to find a sweet spot here, because usually or historically those channels are less attractive in terms of margin. So obviously we want to participate in the growth, but we also have to balance our margin profile, and that's the name of the game. Also going forward for our H2 priorities, which actually leads to the next chart, please. So what is our priority? There's again a common theme, I think, that we just saw with the Rajat slide. So it's really about delivering our top line commitment. It's quite a commitment that we gave, but we are 100% committed. So it's really delivering on our better and bigger strategy and using the growth momentum that we currently observe. And we do have the measures in place. It's particularly also on excellently executing Symphony Wave 2. There is a second wave that we will finish end of this year. It's also continuously showcasing commercial excellence. What does it mean? It's really focusing on pricing. Yes, we will take few pricing actions in Q4, which is quite bold, but absolutely necessary, and the brand equities can also carry that. It's continuous focus on distribution and on selling in the innovations by end of this year to have the pipeline in place for Q1 26 delivery. Last but not least, I said it already, on continue to pivot towards strongly growing channels, and all that with a high-performing team. So that's also a very important pillar of our performance. Only with a winning team, with a fun team, you can make this happen. And having said this, I'm happy to hand over to Melissa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. Warm greetings from my side. Hi to everyone, and happy to be here with you today. So I will share some highlights, starting with some business results. Like Martijn already noted, Q1 was sluggish from a top-line development perspective for all of the reasons that we've talked about: economic uncertainty, muted consumer sentiment, and certainly tariff woes. But here's the good news. We saw notable stabilization in Q2. Beauty Professional gained positive momentum and delivered encouraging growth. From a GP1 perspective, we saw strong improvement driven by favorable product mix and exchange rates, amongst others. All of these things contributed to EBIT levels that exceeded our KP expectations. On the cultural front, I'm incredibly proud of the 3 initiatives you see on your screen, the first of which is called the New Network. This was inspired by the European canteen model. So our Culver City site launched a cafeteria-style lunch program. This initiative allowed us to come together, not only to break bread, but also to break down any barriers or silos across brands and functions. It has been very warmly embraced, and we are certainly excited to continue this tradition. We also hosted our first ever, you guys, Bring Your Family and Friends to Work Day. First ever event of this kind at our location, featured activities, activations, all throughout the site, and ended with a fun outdoor barbecue. Our team members proudly introduced their partners, their children, their parents, even their grandchildren to our workplace. It really was a heartfelt event, one that I'm especially proud of, and we're certainly already planning and looking forward to next year's event. Lastly, on the cultural front, we also had a Canadian offsite. So my executive committee and I visited the Henkel site in Mississauga, Ontario. So shout out to the Canadian team on the phone, on the line today. And we had some great strategy alignment meetings. We had an opportunity to meet with many of the Canadian team. We did market visits. Big thank you to the Canadian colleagues for being such gracious hosts. On the innovation front, we're super excited about the high demand for our limited edition hairsprays, as well as the successful launch of Joico's Scalp Vitality line, launched in July 2025, both driving consumer interest and category relevance. But before I wrap up on the highlights, I'm thrilled to welcome Michelle Chandler, General Manager of Schwarzkopf and Alterna Hair Care, to highlight one more exciting achievement. So Michelle, take it away.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm humbled to be able to represent my brilliant Schwarzkopf USA professional team today. On the next slide, you'll see just kind of an illustration. We took a different approach. We had an opportunity as a very significant player in the color market to address our white spot, which is demi-permanent hair color category, with the relaunch of Vibrance last fall, a campaign that started last fall but continues to this day. Some of the brave and bold choices that we made started with the competition that we defined for ourselves. Rather than going after the category entirely, we went after the key competitor, the gorilla in the room, if you will, the #1 market share leader. And what that did is it informed our communication path, our education, and our go-to-market strategies. We also needed to address the credibility and the consideration phase of the purchase journey. How do we align talent to speak peer-to-peer? Because of course we're going to say our products are great, but we need someone who has credibility in this place with our focused customer. And this is where you see the first two pictures. We have Chris Appleton in collaboration with the master brand team, which gives us kind of that wow factor and consumer awareness, that it crowd, if you will. But we signed Tracy Cunningham, and why she's important is she has spent the last 20 years as a key color lead for our major competitor. So to have her convert after 2 decades of championing a brand and talking about her journey and the vibrance that she gets with using our products has been a gift from consideration and certainly from a credibility perspective. The other component that Tracy brings is her salon customer list looks and reads like A-list Hollywood. There isn't an A-lister that isn't sitting in her chair with regularity. And that was our third pivot, which was PR. Rather than taking just a traditional trade approach, we've transcended trade and we've gone to the consumer directly. And you'll see some of the publications in that third component. And lastly, our current effort, if you will, to push behind the growth of Vibrance is a collaboration with Tracy's real life client, Lindsay Lohan, and the collaboration with the Freakier Friday movie. And this is where you're going to see all of our trade marketing materials in the current stores to highlight her switch journey. So on the next slide, you'll see kind of the results of our incredible annual campaign, if you will. Our June was our highest sales out month. We were up 64% versus prior year. Sell out, which is to me the indication of brand health, is up 52% year to date. And our salon conversions, which is that new customer acquisition, that key metric that we raise, is up 28% from goal and up 28% from prior year. So strategic shifts, excellence in execution. I'm very happy and thankful I was able to present this on behalf of the Schwarzkopf professional US team. I know we've talked highlights, Melissa, but I know that we have some headwinds as well in the North America market.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And once again, thanks again for joining and congratulations to you and the entire Schwarzkopf team. So flip side, in terms of lowlights, we certainly continue to face challenges. The crystal ball is fuzzy, as Rajat mentioned at the top of this meeting. In particular, we also have the increased cost of doing business due to tariffs, which also adds additional pressure. Service levels for beauty professional North America are a going concern. A big component of this is a quality topic related to Kenra professional products, which we're actively addressing with mitigation strategies to minimize the impact and restore service performance, which is already improving. Looking ahead on the next slide, if we think about second half and very much aligning with what Karsten and Marco mentioned in their recent update call, our focus is very much on top line. You've heard it once, not twice, but now 3 times across all 3 presentations. It's very much on delivering better and bigger, emphasis on bigger, doubling down on high impact initiatives that fuel revenue growth. And certainly partnered with that is flawless execution of our key plans to help us realize those top line targets. So that's what we're thinking about for second half in terms of key strategies and focus. So thank you for your time. And with that, I will hand it over to Valeria to talk about people and culture. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here today with all of you. So let's talk a bit about people and culture. And in HR, together with our North American ExCom, we've been focused on one important challenge that was creating more opportunities for career development. And if you remember, probably back in 2023, so development, and we talked about that at that time, was one of the main reasons why people were leaving in North America. We also heard your feedback that internal opportunities were limited, that it wasn't clear enough what we were offering, and that many senior roles also were filled by expats. So in 2024, last year, with the endorsement of this North American XCOM, so we launched the North American Talent Factory. We wanted to enable career opportunities across Henkel inside and outside the region, while also fostering upskilling through different and concrete programs. The first pillar, as you can see here, is career enablement. It giving employees more visibility and chances to craft your own career. So since last year, all of the 2Bs and above open roles are shared with the North American XCOM, along also with profiles of people ready to move, and going a bit off the cross silo or cross SBU and function mindset. So we've also made job market more transparent through the monthly newsletter and virtual career fairs that we did also end of last year. And we are seeing results already. In 2022, only less than 10% of the roles that we had open were filled internally with our internal employees. This year, we have more than 20% overall. And for those roles that we highlighted in the newsletter that you receive by email, it's almost 40%. And for the ones that are at the 2B level, 2B positions, almost 80% of those roles were filled internally. I think this is also a big shout out to the talent acquisition team that it's definitely supporting on all internal mobility and internal career move, but also all the leaders that are trying to get it much, much better and keep reinforcing together with the HRBP's internal career opportunities. So we are also preparing new tools to support your career. One, career coaching for managers, and the launch also of MySpark. MySparks, it's our new global skills-based platform to help employees discover and design their career paths. Stay tuned because you will listen more about it very, very soon. And then moving into the following slide, we have the second pillar. And the second pillar that we're focusing on, it's on development and growth, and it's about creating opportunities for everyone. Our goal is simple. So we want to build a culture of development to help employees thrive at every level and to reskill and upskill our workforce for being ready for tomorrow. Progress is visible. Attrition due to lack of development has already decreased. And we also have expanded our offering through different programs. Extra virtual coaching you've seen today in a newsletter, learning newsletter about it. We're launching already the piloting in fall. Exceed, our accelerated development program with over 20 colleagues participating in this first cohort, which is the pilot in 2025. Talent Circle for future leaders. So now in its first cohort with already more than 60 people participating on this. And this is all apart from all the more than 25,000 trainings and courses and videos that we have through different platforms that all of you have access to. And because we're a global company, we also want more North American talent to grow internationally. So taking on global roles and assignments. Today, about 75% of moves are expats coming into North America, while 25% are employees going abroad. To shift this, we are exploring ways to demystify international opportunities. Not every single move has to be a 2-year or 3 years assignment abroad or in headquarters. There are also projects, there are short-term roles. And global networks that can build and can help us build an international development and career. So overall, making progress, more roles filled internally, stronger development programs, and more learning opportunities, but this is not the finish line. We're not super happy about it. So there is more to do, and our commitment is to continue enabling opportunities so that every employee can craft their career, can grow, and can succeed at Henkel. So we want to see more of our North American talent shining on the global stage. And now let's go back to Rajat, to the community impact.
Thank you, Valeria. And if I just build on everything we talked about, we build a wonderful business. As I reflect through what we covered, a very rich content. There are some amazing stories from our consumer space, how we are winning customers, launching some really creative marketing campaigns to seize momentum in areas where we want to win, and roll out even applications such as hyperscaling data centers. So that's the breadth and the richness of our business in North America. And that's always an amazing story to hear. Outside the business, we also operate in communities. So while we build our talent factory, we also want to engage with our communities. HCB had started a very nice program on Community Impact Day last year, and now we are scaling that. So I'm pleased to announce that we are now taking it also as one Henkel approach across North America. And we take one day, and this day will be October 9th, where we just take that day as a day of service, where we come together and we celebrate the communities around in which we work. So we have this year 20 locations participating across the US and Canada. And if you're on one of those 20 sites, you will have some local communication on how we can volunteer. And if you don't see your sites here, or you don't hear, doesn't mean the other sites are not doing anything. We have on almost every site some form of community impact that we do. It's just we're trying to get coordinated where it makes sense. And it's a cool thing when we get together across sites also on a certain day. So stay tuned, more to come, and we will hear probably what we did in one of the future town halls. So bringing us to an end, we are now going to open up for questions. We will start with the write-in questions. So please, in the meanwhile, submit your questions through Slido. And there were 3 write-in questions. We will address in advance of the town hall. We will address all 3. The first one was around our priorities on the rest of the year, on what we want to achieve. So I hope we have been able to articulate across all the 3 BU presentations, and from Martijn and from Valeria, what our priorities are for the rest of the year. It is really about winning more customers, winning a higher share of wallet at the customers we serve, and growing our business to be a bigger business. That's what good companies do, and that's what we are very determined to do. And as Melissa mentioned, with flawless execution, because that's customer experience when we do that flawlessly. Then there's a question. Then I will hand it over to Jenny to actually moderate our Q&A session. So Jenny, stage is yours. Handing it over to you.
Thanks very much, Rajat, and thanks to everybody for the super inspiring examples of how we're investing for growth and how the teams are performing with a lot of creativity and focus on the customers. Really appreciate that. So you can see again here the Slido code. If you haven't already entered any questions, please keep them coming and feel free to upvote. But as Rajat said, we got some pre-submitted questions. One of which we think we have addressed to some extent in the presentation. I hope that was helpful. But we're going to cover another couple of them here because we weren't able to address them all perfectly in the presentation, and we didn't want them to be missed in the Slido. So the first one is around our progress in the last 5 years. So the question was, in what areas have we made the greatest progress in North America over the past 5 years? And where do we have to do better? So Bob and I have been serving on the XCOM for about that amount of time. So I want to turn it over to Bob because you've been in a front seat to observe this. Maybe you can address this question.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Jenny. I love this question. And I think part of that is because we're in back to school season. And back when I was a kid in grade school, we had something called a progress report. It wasn't the report card that came at the end of the quarter. It was something much less formal that came right in the middle. And it gave an indication of how you're doing, and then maybe some things you need to work on before the report card comes. And I think that this is an awesome question because it really asks for a progress report for us in the 20s. I mean, our goal, according to Karsten, is to win the 20s. And we're 2025, so it's the perfect time to sort of get that progress report. So if I was going to give a progress report for North America, I think an easy way to look at it is we're taking 3 classes. We've got a math class, we've got a social studies class, and we've got a writing class. So on the math class, that's the business piece. And math is tough and business is tough if you look at the external environment. But if you dig deep as to what's happened, how we progressed over the last 5 years, you see a really strong foundation and a compelling story. So I want to highlight, which everyone knows in HCB, a lot of work has been done after the merger of beauty and laundry here in the region, and then sort of really strengthening that business. And if you see the numbers on profit and EBIT, they are night and day what they were just a few years ago. So really strong, solid business there. If you jump over to HAT, their focus, instead of sort of refining, which was happening in HCB, was focused on more sort of growth in particular areas like MRO. And you take a look at the acquisitions of Critica and Seal for Life are just perfect examples of that. So I jump back to the math piece of this. I feel like in the business, we understand it. And that's the toughest part of math right now. We understand the HAT business, and we've got an HCB business that really is strong. We just have to get quicker at it. And I think that's what we've got to do in the second half of the decade is really get quicker because we've got a really firm foundation. Second class we're taking is social studies. And the key word for that is culture. And I think we've made a ton of progress on culture. And if you take a look at just some of the things that Valeria talked about, we could go on for probably an hour to talk about some of those achievements. I want to highlight only one, and it's one that's pretty topical over the last 6 months or so, and it's D&I. And I think when we started on our D&I journey, there were other companies, big companies with big names, who frankly did more, right? And maybe scored higher than we did. Maybe they got 95, maybe we only got 85. But like many things that happen with Henkel, we take sort of a resilient and steady approach. So when things changed here in North America on the DEI component piece of it, we didn't abandon sort of the D&I piece of it. If you take a look at even companies as big as Walmart that did so much and got that 95 before, they've abandoned it. So to go from 95 to 0, you average those 2 test scores, you're looking at something, in the 40s, 48%. We maybe had to adjust a little bit. Maybe we had an 85, maybe now we have an 80, but still a very solid B. When you look at the external environment and those challenges, it's a great grade to have. And then last but not least is our writing class. And writing class is about story. And we had some challenges and have had some challenges for a while prior to 2020, building our brand, telling our story. We've got 2 super awesome businesses, but they're very different together. And how do we tell one Henkel story? And there was a huge, I think, bet and investment made huge bet and investment made on U.S. soccer. And we have a multi-year contract and sponsorship with them when we're going to be able to really leverage the Henkel name through 340 million people here in the US and move from being the knife company, which people may talk about, to being a company that's more top of mind for those consumers and potential employees. So super excited about where we are at this progress report in the year and looking forward to continuing to grow in all 3 of those areas and get a good report card by the time 2029 rolls around.
Thanks, Bob. Super helpful insights, and I love the analogy there. We're always back to school at this time of year. Thanks for that. I want to turn now to the next question that was pre-submitted, and then I see a lot of healthy activity in Slido, so we'll jump into that as quickly as we can. But the second question that was pre-submitted is, what concerns or challenges keep you up at night as you look ahead to the remainder of the 2025 deliverables? So maybe Rajat, you can take this one.
Okay, Jenny, thank you for sharing the tough question with me. Let me start with one thing. So I make a choice not to have too many things keep me up at night. I value my good night's sleep very much to be fully functional and of sound mind the entire day with the right energy level I need. So while I think about a lot of things, and I will share some of those thoughts, I make sure rest and recovery is important through the night. What do I have on mind? What do I think about? First thing I think about is the customer. That's really stays on top of my mind. And when I'm spending time with customers, and that's a limited data point, I do visit customers. Out of the thousands of customers, I can only see a handful. There is a theme that emerges, at least for me, and I take that as an answer personally with my experiences. So they really enjoy the experience they get with our customer facing representatives, because we really put our heart and soul into these customers, and they tell us, hey, these are the reasons, your people are the reason we are here. They very much respect our innovations. They do. And then comes the what I think beyond that. They also tell us, hey, you are not always the easiest custom supplier to work with or the easiest partner to work with. So Henkel doesn't carry a reputation, from what I see, where I meet customers, as an easy partner to work with. And there, I believe, is something we are working on and we need to work on continuously. How do we be flexible and agile for our customers, that they really love to work with us also because we are easy to work with, not always because we have the best people. So that's one piece. The second piece is around the environment is changing really, really fast. So I do think, are we agile enough? Are we evolving fast enough in the fast growing, in this fast changing marketplace? What gives me confidence, to sum it up, is when I'm in town halls or in roundtables. I had one recently a couple of weeks ago in Stamford over a pizza lunch, and hearing the stories of everybody I met in the hallway on how people are experimenting and how people are aware of this fast changing environment and how we are actually trying new things, gives me also confidence. And I use Bob's words, in winning the 20s, because that's what it's all about. So Jenny, with that, I hand it over back to you.
Thanks, Rajat. Terrific. So we're going to jump into the Slido questions now. We want to hit as many of those as we can. So I'm going to go right to the first question, and we'll start this one with you as well, Rajat, if you don't mind. The question is, are there changes on the horizon for smart work and days in the office?
So we have I would say, a very healthy smart work policy, which allows people to be in the office and allow people to work from any other place to be, again, their full productive selves. And we want to keep that smart work policy to attract talent and for all of you to contribute the most we all can. That's where I will leave it. If there's anything else, Valeria, for you to add, I invite you as well.
Thank you, Rajat. And actually, you will say, so we want to keep it and we keep it. So nothing is changing. So for the piece of hybrid, so it's up to 40% home and the rest at the office, also visiting customers or whatever you do, but it's after up to 40% home, 60% office, or whatever is your office.
Thank you both. Jump into the next question. This is also from Anonymous. For those who want to offer questions, we love it when you tell us your name, because it tells us where you're coming from and what you're interested in. So we love the transparency, but we're going to address the questions regardless. So the voting has told us the next question is about Copilot. Happy to see that Copilot has now been introduced via Microsoft Teams. Can you give some more information on AI at Henkel? What does the 2 to 3 year roadmap look like? So I know we've been talking about this a little bit among the XCOM. Maybe Valeria and Rajat, you guys can give some thoughts there from what you've been discussing, especially with the DX team, which isn't represented on the call today.
Valeria, would you like to go first?
Sure. Sure. So what we are doing right now is making sure that we are preparing our people, and for that it's making sure that everyone is ready for the different pilots and different projects that are ongoing. We have different projects going on around the world. And I would say that probably you've seen today also in the newsletter, there is information about the upskilling on AI. And we have, let's say, you can go to an AI Explorer hub. You can type Explorer hub, AI Explorer hub, and you can see all the information that is connected to that. So on the Copilot chat, but also on all the learning programs to get up to speed. So we continue to make progress with the AI across Henkel, several pilots, as I said, underway in marketing. We're using tools like Firefly to create dynamic content faster and also more cost effectively. Within adhesives, we are developing product selection accelerators like Gluely to help our customers and sales team find the right products more quickly in R&D. And those are just examples of probably more than 40 that I've heard already. In R&D, so initiatives like Octopus are focused on speeding up product development by building customer insights and formulation ideas. Also in finance, we are using AI tools to automate our dispute management process and make it more effective. We are starting also with MySparks in HR as well. So there are different initiatives, and the idea is to keep moving, but also making sure that we are doing it in an ethic way, in the right way, and that we are prepared for taking and making the best out of it.
Yeah, and I would just add to summarize this. So one side is the launch of tools. We are launching a variety of tools in the right areas, as Valeria mentioned. Other is the launch of a general program, which is Copilot. And then the last one is upskilling. So happy to prepare a short email for everybody on how you can access the upskilling part and how you can learn to use the general tools that are available, in addition to the specialist ones which the specialists are working with. So we can take that up and come back. Jenny, back to you.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. We will follow up on that. Happy to do it. So the next question comes also from Anonymous that says, I'm confused. Last week we were praised on how well we were doing. Now we hear the words flat and fuzzy. Which is correct? So definitely an interesting environment we're operating in, which is probably why you hear some of those words. I think that a few people in their presentations address this, including you, Melissa. So maybe you want to address this.
Yeah, happy to. Thank you. So Rajat actually used the analogy of the crystal ball is fuzzy, and I thought that was a clever way of really using that kind of symbolism and metaphor to describe the economic uncertainty that we're living with today. We're probably living with, in North America, a little bit more volatility than we have seen in the past few years, I'd say, and I think you'd agree. We think that consumer sentiment is up and down, depending on which report that you read. Tariffs are super unpredictable. So that just means that we're dealing with a little bit of unpredictability and volatility, hence why the crystal ball is a little fuzzy. But that just means that we have to stay laser focused our priorities and our strategies in order to deliver our business results. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, thank you for addressing that. Probably looks a little different in each one of the businesses, but we're all focused on that top line growth picture, even though the environment isn't always clear. So we have time for one more question. And it looks like the next question that's upvoted is probably going to result in a lot of examples being given, but let's try to be crisp in the time we have left. It says, what are some of the key investments happening in HCB and HAT that will help support continued growth in our region, not related to acquiring companies and technology? So I think some of this was covered in the presentation, but maybe if there's a word or two that each one of the business leaders wants to share, I'm happy to hear a couple more examples.
Yeah,
Rajat,
okay, I can give a short update. So we are investing. So a specific example, we are opening a new site in a month from now in Brandon. And that site is for thermal materials to expand our capacity to serve that fast growing market. There are other organic investments, not acquisitions. I only talk about organic investments to either upgrade our facilities or modernize our sites. So we have a full investment deck planned for the next 4 years.
Yeah, super. Great to see that grand opening happening soon. Anyone else want to share an example? I know we saw some of the big investments in marketing, for example, and the compaction investment was the major one for HCB. Anything to add?
Yeah, I can jump in.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just wanted to mention 2 key points, investment in brands. Michelle alluded a little bit to that, but we have examples across our portfolio of brands in Beauty Professional of how we're investing, driving awareness, driving trial, building brand equity. And so that certainly is a focus for us across the board. And the other place I'll talk about investments above and beyond the technology and other companies that were excluded from scope is really our people and culture. We've put a lot of emphasis this year on that piece, whether it be, upskilling to ensure that we have the absolute best knowledge and expertise in the hair category, best in class in the industry. We're really doubling down on people and culture.
Thanks.
To you,
really
Kathleen.
Really appreciate the additional examples. Kathleen?
Yeah, I just echo that. Investments in our brand equities is at an all-time high, even compared to other regions. And Symphony, I just was elaborating around this, is an investment more than 50 million. So I think it's clear that we are heavily investing in the region and our assets. And I just would like to echo what Melissa said and Rajat said.
Thank you. And we'll continue to bring examples to these quarterly XCOM town halls. So with that, we're out of time. We will address the questions we didn't get to today. We always do an assessment, look for an opportunity to come back in another forum or through a message in writing. So be assured we're looking closely at those, and we appreciate the questions because it gives us insight as to where everyone is and how we can work together collaboratively to drive the success we're looking for the rest of the year. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Rajat, to close this out.
Thank you very much for everybody to participate and make it a very interactive town hall. We look forward to engaging with you in another quarter from now, that means later in the year in Q4. And wish everybody a wonderful day ahead or afternoon. Bye.